Hi, everyone. Thank you for the kind words, and thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. As David mentioned, my name is Cambrian Liu. I am a new research assistant professor at UChicago, and the focus of my research is examining whether stem cells might change how we think about and treat inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD. Next slide, please. First, a little bit about me. I grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I've had the great pleasure of living in some of the best food cities in the US. Along the way, I also happened to get some degrees. At Chicago, the focus of my research group is on identifying new strategies to treat patients with IBD. Next slide, please. As many of you are familiar with, IBD affects millions of Americans and millions more globally. Most of our patients are being treated with medications that suppress the immune system. The problem is that many patients don't respond or respond only incompletely to these medications. And so many patients are actually left behind by the current regimen of therapies. As a result, new medical approaches and therapies are desperately needed. And the focus of my research is actually on trying to heal the wounds that this disease causes within the intestines. Studies have shown that healing of these wounds is essential to get optimal therapeutic outcomes in IBD patients. Next slide, please. My lab's approach toward doing this is to leverage the activity and power of stem cells. Stem cells are potent cells that can turn an embryo into an adult and grow all of our organs. In adults, they're responsible for lengthening our hair. And in the GI tract, they are responsible for maintaining our intestinal organs and also for helping them respond to natural insults and injuries. Next slide. In my lab, we can isolate stem cells by the millions from routine medical procedures such as colonoscopies. We can grow them in a dish into these structures we call mini guts, which are small replicas of that patient's intestines. Next slide, please. And my lab focuses on using and studying these stem cells in three major ways. The first is we want to know if we can transplant stem cells and mini guts back into the diseased intestine and help launch a healing process. This would be really important towards giving patients an important new avenue of therapies to treat their disease. Next. We can also use stem cells and mini guts to predict how a patient might respond to certain IBD therapies. We can expose these mini guts to different therapies and ask whether they disintegrate or proliferate. And that can really help doctors and patients decide what therapeutic strategies might be most appropriate for them. Next, please. And finally, we can combine stem cells and imaging to understand what are the deep origins of IBD and what induces the chronicity of this disease. And this will illuminate new ways we can actually target this disease for therapies. Next slide, please. So I want to leave you with tonight is this idea that we're at the cusp of a revolution in terms of how we think and how we might treat IBD. And stem cells are really at the center of this all. Thanks for listening, and thank you for your support.